those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no? No. Okay, again, can we have a hand on the yes? Same three? Okay. And the noes? Okay. Can we
Wait a second, just to
clarify?
inform the pros, if these don't pass, then we have to have another meeting, because we have to have 30
Yeah, we're
days
there.
notice.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention, I'd also like to mention that we go through this every year with this budget process. The preliminary budget is not the final budget, so even if we approve this tonight, it does not mean that that is in stone. There, it can change until June.
Yes.
June is when we adopt the final budget, so
Correct. Thank you,
I'm
Bill,
not
for
sure
that
I understand the
clarification.
reason for not passing it, because it was not something that was final. Just for the record.
Right. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd also like a point of clarification. If somebody makes a motion, can they then vote against it?
We have had people make a motion in the past, and we have voted. They also have voted on. They're just reading. I know it's,
I think we should look into that.
Okay.
I'm not sure that.
okay, then whoever, then let's keep reading, and if you're a no, then please don't read it. The printing of tax duplicates.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve a contract with Government Software Services of Pennsylvania to print school tax duplicates and bills for real estate for 2021. Year as proposed at 65 cents each. That's not 65 cents. 20.65 each per name printed for the 2 copies of real estate duplicate and occupation per capita duplicate. The sum of $99.50 each duplicate bond. The sum of 16 cents for each tax date prepared.
I'll second.
Yeah. That motion was made by Mr. Auckland and then seconded by Mr. Hoke. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion does pass. Could I have a motion for number 14, please, the construction fund?
I move that the Board of Education approve the use of funds from our 2019 construction fund for the following capital projects. Replace carpeting in 10 through 12 rooms at the middle school, approximate cost $95,000. Complete a roof drainage repair at Evergreen Elementary, approximate cost $60,000. And repair solar tubes at Evergreen Elementary, approximate cost is $14,000.
Okay. I'll second that motion. That motion was made by Mr. Gambita and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And any abstaining? That motion does pass. Could I have a motion for 15, please, the flexible instructional days?
I recommend the Board of Education approve flexible instructional days as an alternative form of instruction in place they otherwise canceled when circumstances, epidemic, hazardous weather condition, law enforcement emergency, inoperability of school buses or equipment necessary to the school's operation, damage to a building unfit or unsafe for use, prevent the delivery of instruction in its customary manner or location. FID days are not to exceed 5 days in a school year, also to provide flexibility to meet minimum instructional time requirements for the 2021-2022 school year, and if approved, may be extended up to 3 years.
Can I have a second? I'll second that. The motion was made by Mr. Hoke and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
No.
So we have 2 noes? Okay. Mr. Auckland and Ms. Desiato. That motion does pass. We will now have the block and then we'll pull out personnel. So Mr. Gershi?
Okay, I move that we approve a block motion which would include numbers 16 through 19 and 27 through 45 with the exception of 45F and G.
Correct. That motion was made. I will second that. So we have a block motion for 16 through 19 and then 27 through 45E, pulling out F and G. That motion was made by Mr. Gershi and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments hearing from anyone on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstaining? That block does pass. Could I have a motion for the election of board treasurer, number 20? And you could just say, I recommend, I'll do that one. I recommend Jeff Gogolski as board treasurer in accordance with section 404 of the Public School Code.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by myself and then seconded by Mr. Auckland. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And any abstaining? That motion does pass. Can I have a motion for 21, please? I recommend that the Board of Education approve the amount of $3,000 for the board's treasury salary for the 2021-2022 school year. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
That motion was made by myself and then seconded by Mr. Gershi. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstaining? Mr. Gogolski is treasurer. Could I have a motion for 22, please?
I recommend that the Board of Education approve our public officers show the treasurer's bond at $25,000 for the 2022 school year at a state cost of $250.
I'll second. That motion was made by Mr. Auckland and then seconded by Mrs. Desiato. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstaining? That motion does pass. Motion for 23, the donation of the board's treasury salary.
I move that the Board of Education approve the donation of the board treasurer's salary in the amount of $1,000 to Kobe Ripley, $1,000 to Western Maine Boys Soccer, and $1,000 to the Wayne Library Alliance Hamlin Community Library.
I'll second that.
That motion was made by Mr. Gambita and then seconded by Mr. Hoke. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstaining? That motion does pass. Could we have a nomination for the board secretary?
I nominate Mrs. Rose Emmett as the board secretary.
Okay, that motion was made by Mr. Hoke and then seconded by Mrs. Desiato. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And any abstaining? That motion does pass. A motion for the board secretary's salary, please.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the board secretary's yearly salary for the term of the office at $3,000.
I'll second that. Motion was made by Mrs. Desiato and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And any abstaining? That motion does pass. A motion for the board secretary bond. I recommend that the Board of Education approve the public secretary's bond at $25,000 for the term of the office at the estimated cost of $250. Motion was made by Ms. Fiorella and seconded by Mrs. Desiato. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, that motion does pass. So then we just need to jump to 45F, and that is for personnel. And I'd like to do them individually if we could. So if somebody wants to make a motion for F1, please.
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of the superintendent and district administrators as to Sienna Cardamone, temporary professional employee, special education, step 2M, $60,363 with applicable fringe benefits effective for start of the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second that. That motion was made by Mr. Wood and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Any abstaining? That motion does pass. Could I have a motion for number 2, please?
I recommend the Board of Education approve the recommendation of the superintendent and district administrators in the appointment of Casey Wasowski, temporary professional employee, Health and Physical Education, Step 3M, $60,863, with applicable fringe benefits effective for the start of the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Hook and then seconded by Mr. Wood. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And any abstaining. That motion does pass. Could I have a motion for number 3, please?
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of the superintendent and district administration for Nicole Weber, professional employee, elementary, step 2B, $55,813 with applicable fringe benefits effective for the start of the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Ms. Desiato and then seconded by Mr. Hook. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And any abstaining. That motion does pass. Motion for number 4, please.
I move that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of the superintendent and district administrators for the following appointments of Sadie McHale, temporary professional employee, elementary, step 1B, $55,313, with applicable benefits effective for the start of the 2021-22 school year.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Mr. Gambita and then seconded by Mr. Hope. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And any abstaining. That motion does pass. Could I have a motion for number 5, please?
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of superintendent and district administrators as following tonight. Summer Lucas, professional employee, elementary, step 1B, $55,313, with applicable fringe benefits effective for start date of the 2022 school year.
I'll second that. That motion was made by Mr. Onklin and then seconded by myself. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Any abstaining? That motion does pass. Motion for number 6, please.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the recommendation of the superintendent and district administration for Aaron Chain, temporary professional employee, elementary, step 2B, $55,813 with applicable fringe benefits effective for the start of the 2021-22 school year.
I'll second that.
Mr. Gambita beat you to it, Rick. The motion was made by Ms. Desiato and then seconded by Mr. Gambita. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. And any abstaining. That motion does pass. Motion for G, the appointment there.
I move that the Board of Education approve the following appointment for the Summer Aid Supply Program, 2021, contingent upon enrollment at the following rate. Katie Kingston, ESY teacher, $36.07 an hour.
I'll second that.
That motion was made by Mr. Gambita and then seconded by Mr. Hope. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Any abstaining? That motion does pass. Okay, that is all of our voting. We do have some informational items. To achieve compliance with Act 39, we have reviewed recent lead testing results in the drinking water and are confident that there is no risk from lead at the facilities. Results are well below the EPA thresholds for any action level. Also, the fuel oil bid was accepted from Sunoco LP at a fluctuating price of .0050 per gallon above the unit price per gallon posted on the reseller price at the supplier's refinery terminal for the 2021 school year, plus .0435 per gallon delivery charge. So that is our informational. We do have some dates coming up. April 26th through May 21st is the PSSA testings. This past weekend there was prom. The concert was last night. We have AP exams from May 3rd through the 14th. We also have May 8th an art show from 1 to 3 and the spring concert at 12:30, which is a limited audience band concert, 3:15 at the stadium. We also have a reading competition, which is virtual, May 11th through the 13th. We have a May 14th noon dismissal, asynchronous day. We also have on May 17th through the 28th Keystone exams. May 24th through the 28th, we have Middle School Spirit Week. We also have on the 27th, National Honor Society induction ceremony. The rain date will be May 28th at the stadium at 7 p.m. May 28th, we also have dismissal for Memorial Day holiday. And then on the 13th, we have no school, which is Memorial Day, the 31st. So we also have a student intern, University of Scranton, Shelley Bovano, the guidance, with Matt Fitzsimmons. So at 27, any correspondence to report? Superintendent's report, is there any questions? Or the assistant to the superintendent's report? How about the principal's report? Any federal program report? Okay. Any other business at this time?
I would like to make a motion that employees and students have the option to not wear masks outdoors during school hours and at home outdoor sporting events and practices. Based on the Wayne County statistics on vaccination rates, it puts us over the 70% the government has recommended. The statistics are the first dose in Wayne County are at 21,225, which provides 80% protection from COVID. The fully vaccinated within the county are at 15,565, and there have been 3,910 cases within the county that had COVID, for a total of 40,690, which is well beyond the 70% of Wayne County. 70% of Wayne County would have to hit 35,905.
I'll second that.
So we do have a motion for releasing the mask mandate for our students while outdoors and employees.
What about indoors?
I don't believe we can do any of that.
Well, let's just take the motion and vote, and then we'll go from there.
Is allowed to speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could we have an opinion from our council?
Yes. That would put us at great risk of not receiving funding from the state. What does he say?
Mask off and talk. Please. I can't even hear you.
Matt, would you like to speak, please?
Sure, I can speak.
LCS is ridiculous.
Yeah. You're 6?
Not worrying about your salary, start worrying about my kids.
Amen.
So the school board has been tasked with a number of things, and the one is the order that came down from the governor, and I know,
It's in order.
I'm sorry.
Can we please let
I'm sorry, sir.
Matt speak,
I've given you
please?
folks the ability to speak. I am just analyzing the law as it's come down through the Supreme
no
Court.
law.
Listen again, can we please let Matt
Let him
speak?
speak, let him speak.
Words are important, use them correctly, sir.
Sir, please, or we'll have to ask you to leave.
Thank you.
I take no side on this issue. That's not my job. My job is to analyze the law as it's laid out and has been determined by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Because ultimately, the United States and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a rule of law. That's how it's been since the founding of our nation. So if I could just continue and speak, I didn't interrupt anybody else that was speaking, I'd appreciate it. It's just common courtesy. Thank you. The governor issued an order. The order stated that it applies to children and adults while in schools with regard to mask wearing. They recently updated that order, and they still continue to require masks while in school. The governor's order, as was commented on here, was taken up and challenged by certain members of the legislature, all the way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court came down and said that the governor did have the authority to issue that order. I believe a lot of you have been doing research, and if you've been paying attention, on May 18th is the primary election. There are some very important constitutional amendments on the ballot that I would encourage all of you to take a close look at. I take no side either way. Essentially, the question that's coming up is whether the governor in the future would be able to issue an order like this and let it stand forever, or let it stand without any challenge by the legislature. My reading of the amendment, and I encourage you to read it, I have not analyzed it from a constitutional law perspective, but it seems to state that if the governor issues an order, it can only stay in effect for 21 days without the General Assembly, which is the entire legislature, then stepping in and saying that order can continue or not continue. Unfortunately, our school board has to comply with this order at this point because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court came down and said they have to. This order coincides with the federal CDC order as well, that masks have to be required. The school district is partially, and I don't know the percentage, partially funded by the Pennsylvania legislature and the Department of Education. The school district and the school board takes a tremendous risk by violating the governor's order, which the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has said is legally sound, because in essence, they could then decide to withhold funding to our school district, and they could have the right to do that if we violated a governor's order. And in the event they did that, this school board is still tasked with educating your children. And they would have to come up with, whether it's 40% of a $60 million budget, they'd have to find that money. And as you all know, in August, we all receive school tax bills if you own a property. They would be forced to shift that burden back to the citizens of Western Wayne School District. Now, that's just the analysis as I see it. As I reviewed this in the past week, I've looked at it from the federal government on down. I've read the Supreme Court decisions. The school board doesn't have the authority under these orders to violate a governor's order.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
We'll roll the dice.
I'm not going to get into an argument. That's my analysis based upon my legal reading of it. As I said, Roger, I've served with you, Roger. I never disrespected you, Roger, when you were on the board here. It's just common courtesy.
How many people followed orders in Nazi Germany?
I'm sorry, ma'am. You may not like what I'm saying. I'm just giving the legal analysis. I'm just giving the legal analysis.
We're going to the Supreme Court, too. We're not supposed to.
Ma'am, can we please
I'm just giving the legal analysis as I see it under the law. As I said, Roger, I take no position on this. It's not my job.
Rick, they passed the policy tonight, or not policy.
Roger, can we?
I'm sorry?